son of Sam, Raceway, Mortician, Hoochie Coochie Man, Child of God, seventh son of Sam, Raceway, Mortician, Hoochie Coochie Man, Child of God, seventh son of Sam, Raceway, Mortician, Hoochie Coochie Man, Child of God, seventh son of Sam, Raceway, Mortician, Hoochie Coochie Man, making love in the dirt behind the 7-Eleven, out on parole. I'm feeling lucky, paradise on earth, little slice of heaven. I am the king of Clowns ass Kentucky, making love in the dirt behind the 7-Eleven, out on parole. I'm feeling lucky, paradise on earth, little slice of heaven, for I am the king of Clowns ass Kentucky. Greetings, Gurkaholics. Hello, hi, hey, we did it. We have succeeded. We've done the thing. What have we done? We have finished the EP. That's why this began with a song called Clown's Ass Kentucky. So we have done a thing. Have we done a good thing? I don't know. And I'm saying we, because you folks were my inspiration for getting this done and finishing it. We did this together, which means that, you get to take a good chunk of the credit, half the credit. You also get to take half the blame if people think that the EP that is coming up sucks. Well, you know what? Before we get into the whole thing about Clown's Ass Kentucky, and we discuss what we normally do, the inspiration, then the music stuff, and then there's a little tutorial, just talk about the new album. So EP. The EP will be called, and here's a picture of the Bandcamp site, Tales from the FrankenCartridge, as you probably figured it would be. It will be released on October 1st. Now, you're probably wondering, well, if it's already done, why are you not releasing it now? Why wait till October 1st? And the thing is, you don't watch the movie Trick or Treat in August. Occasionally, Vienna and I will, because we love horror movies. But usually there's a time of the year when you're going to put on Trick or Treat, you're going to put on Halloween. Children shouldn't play with dead things. You can watch anytime. But there's just certain movies, The Exorcist, Hereditary, that you want to watch in October. And that's what I feel. This is a Halloween album. This album was made for Halloween. Also, this album is a one and done. I'm only ever going to make one EP, solo EP, and this is it. So no more. So this will be there and it'll be free. So that's another thing. You can get it for free. I know you've already heard all the songs, but you'll be able to download that for free. Not going to put it on Spotify. I'm not going to deal with CD Baby. So I will take the videos, chuck everything together and make like the video album, and I'll have that up on YouTube. And altogether, the album's about 20 minutes long with some little spacing in there. It'll probably come out to, just about 21 minutes with a little 2-second gap between each song. Only one song had to be remastered, and that was This Ghastly Noise. I remastered that, so that will be out again on the video compilation remastered. Doesn't sound all that different, but it does sound a little bit better. And that was the first one I did, and I was just playing around with that, and that's how the idea for the album came up. I have no idea how the hell to market this album. In the old days, what would happen, I've got to stop saying and but in the old days, what would happen, somebody from the record company would be like, oh, don't worry, we've got this, and then you would open up Smash Hits or Sassy. Sassy was a big, we were all over the pages of Sassy. Actually, knew a young lady whose friends submitted her, and she won, without her knowledge, she won being the sassiest girl in Southern California, which is a title I might hold, I don't know, but yeah, I have no idea how to market it, so that might be a whole video later on. But I said I would finish it before October, and it is finished. It is done. You heard the last track, Clown's Ass Kentucky, so that you know it is finished, and you've seen what the Bandcamp site will look like when it launches. So you know it's done. We have done this. We've done this thing. We can rest a little bit, but there may be a video or two where I talk about trying to market in the digital age. There's a guy called Damian Keys. And Damian Keys makes a lot of videos that just scare the living crap out of me. Damian Keys is a Welshman. He's like, well, the music industry's gone to hell again this week. And you're like, well, you're not helping me, Damian. You're not cheering me up. Every week it's like, music is over. And I'm like, oh, well, why am I doing this? But music being over, it is quite freeing. I make this EP, I put it out there, nobody has to pay for it, I made it at home, and we all learned how to do it together. And I think I've learned, even though it's a one and done, I think I've learned a lot from it. So in the future there will be no more EPs, but I have learned how to make songs a lot better. So I'll figure out something to do at some point with all the knowledge that I gleaned during this period. So, but I just wanted to say thank you all. We will now move on to talk about Clown's Ass Kentucky, and we will begin with speaking about the inspiration. I am fascinated by the state of Kentucky. Kentucky is a weird state. Like Tennessee, they're not that crazy about. That can be a not fun state. Kentucky is weird. It's basically kind of a purple state. They've got a Democrat governor, so it's not as scary as it could be. I think he's actually, by the time I announce this, he may or may not be the vice presidential pick. That's happening tomorrow in my timeline, maybe not yours. But Kentucky is just, it's weird. I mean, Kentucky's like so much weirdness. Of course, the Goatman Bridge and the Goatman, obviously, it's the Goatman Bridge. They're located in Pope Lick, Kentucky. You can't say Pope Lick without laughing. And you would think it's probably not funny to an altar boy or two. But yeah, Pope Lick is where the Goatman lives. There's Hellier. There's a whole weird series about Hellier and all the strange stuff going on there with Indrid Cold. Really good to hear Indrid come up again. He's passed away. He was killed in a flying saucer accident. I'm not making this up, but a good friend of mine, Indrid Cold, knew him and Valiant Thor. And Valiant Thor was portrayed on TV as having like black hair last time I saw that, and I'm like, that's not going to sit well with the old Val Thor. The Hopkinsville Goblins. Obviously, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. So there's something to enjoy right there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to want to look into these. There's a place called the Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky that is really creepy. They have, not only do they have real life murders, 2 young ladies were sadly murdered, but they also have urban legend murders. Apparently a whole family went camping in their Airstream and was murdered by the DOGMAN. And it's like, it's a serious thing, sadly. There are people that live at the Land Between the Lakes going, why can't people just forget the DOGMAN? Why can't they let the DOGMAN go? So yes, I would heavily recommend that you look into all this stuff, because it's a good way to spend an afternoon, particularly if it's rainy outside and you got nothing else to do. I guess your cable goes out, your internet will go out, but still, this is fun stuff to look into. Good song material. So, about a few miles just southeast of the aforementioned Pope Lick, where the Goatman lives, is a place called Somerset. Now, Somerset is in a county called Pulaski County. And Pulaski County might be the weirdest place on earth. Some people call it the Penny Royal County, which is sometimes spelled Penny, P-N-E-E-Y-R-O-Y-A-L. But sometimes they spell it completely different than that. And I mean, like, not even using vowels or letters. It's an odd place. Sometimes I've seen it spelled Pennyrile, which is P-N-N-Y-R-I-L-E. I've seen a bunch of different spellings of it, but it's actually called the Pennyroyal area. I think a meteorite hit it, as if at one, obviously not recently, but in the early days of the Earth, and some people think that's why it's so weird. There's a Pennyroyal podcast. I think they shut it down a couple of years ago. There's a whole podcast about this place. If you go to Somerset, they also have the Pulaski County International Paranormal Museum and Research Center. So you can get all your paranormal research done right there. It is a weird, weird town. It's the setting for the song. Clown's Ass, Kentucky is just outside. It's within Pulaski County. So it's somewhere between Bowling Green, Elizabethtown, and Somerset. But if I had to go pick one of those towns to hang out in, I'd hang out in Somerset. Because it is a weird, literally, they're seeing UFOs on a daily basis. Just Google Somerset Weird or Somerset Strange. Mammoth Cave. Mammoth Cave is out there. Mammoth Cave is probably, I think, the largest cave in the world. Sure, why not? Why wouldn't it be there? And there's also the gravestone of Carl Pruitt, and that's another one you want to look into. Basically, you go out there and you mess with his grave and you get murdered with a chain. A lot of fun stuff, and I wanted, since this is a Halloween album, I just wanted to kind of focus in one spot, and the idea of Clown's Ass, Kentucky kind of came to me. Like, what if someone was constantly plagued by, black-eyed children, had this streak of bad luck, but in the chorus he does seem kind of happy. He's fooling around behind the 7-Eleven. He's out on parole. I didn't want to put the guy out on parole, but I think he's probably out on parole for something minor and fun. Probably fireworks. Probably had to do with fireworks. But and he's the king. He's the king of Clown's Ass, Kentucky. Generally feeling really, really good, despite having to deal with goblins, banshees, and black-eyed children. So it's an upbeat, positive song, and it doesn't end the album, but it anchors the album. So it comes halfway through, which I think is really good. So we have now discussed the inspiration behind it, and I could do like a 3-hour video just on weird crap from Kentucky. So let's all get in the car and go down there. But right now, instead, I'm going to talk about music stuff, and I'm going to talk about the stuff that went into making Clown's Ass, Kentucky, which is a sentence I thought I would never say in my life. Like, here's all the work I put into Clown's Ass, Kentucky. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about when talking about the components of Clown's Ass, Kentucky, the song, not the city. I'm sure there's a city called Clown's Ass, Kentucky. I didn't bother to Google it, and if there isn't, there might be by the time this song is out there. But the component that probably got your attention first off, because it's right there, the bell. The bell is an FM synth bell. That was the basis of it. Now, FM synth does a lot of things really well. It does pads really well, nice icy pads. It does, as we know, FM bass, but it also does bells incredibly well. So I decided I was going to make the ultimate FM synth bell. And, here's a fun fact, just digressing for a little bit. Taco Bell, when you're watching a Taco Bell ad and you hear that bell, bing, that's an FM synth bell. That was made on an FM synth. I think that might be a DX11, but I'm not quite sure. What I did was I sat down and I made bell after bell after bell, and then I made combinations of the bells. I'm like, how's this sound? These two together. Finally, I settled on a bell called Bell 5, and what I did was I wound up combining that. And that obviously Bell 5 was over on the DX7. What's DX7? DX11. What's wrong with me? It's odd number. It doesn't matter. It's prime. Over on the DX11, and then I used the Chord Minilog XD to double that with a sound called the Rhodes Bell. Rhodes Bell. For you old movie fans, I put a thing on them, a reverb on those called a riser, just to make them both creepy. Originally, like I say, the Bell 5, the bell that I used, the FM bell, was creepy by itself with the riser, but I managed to combine them. Now, if you're wondering, wait a minute, how did you use the same reverb? Because the reverb over on the DX11 different than the reverb on the Minilog. Actually, the reverb, the Minilog, and as I pointed out before, and the Minilog and my little favorite thing ever. You know what? Let's bring him out. And this might be his last time out here in the spotlight. All right, the MTS, because if you're going to come back into this, the MTS1 and the Minilog can house the same reverbs, sort of, and we'll get to that later. But I use the riser from this on the FM synth, and it's already built into that sound is built into the Minilog XD. So there you go. Now you know. So in case you were wondering, wait a minute, it just doesn't seem right. The drums are just the Voca, the Korg Voca drums, and I was doing so well in the beginning. And the FM bass is, of course, our old friend, the Ormsby bass, because what else you want? Now, I've been saying for these videos for months now that I would put up the patch sheet for the Ormsby bass up on the free sound section of my website. I've done it. So if you have like a TX81Z, or if you have the Reface DX, or if you happen to have a DX11, or any, you could probably, if you have the Korg Volca FM, you could probably tweak it. But the info's there if you want to have the Ormsby bass, and I'm glad I have it. It's one of the few things in life that makes me super happy. But what I did this time, and I think I found my signature bass sound. The FM bass is great. It has that, sharp attack. It's icy. It's got a lot of presence. But what I decided was that I would mix that with an analog bass. And people did this back a lot in the 80s. A lot of, you're listening to like Pet Shop Boys, you're probably listening to some FM bass and some analog bass mixed. So over on the Minilog XD, I found a bass called the Cutie. And that's what you hear, the combination of the two. It's really present in the song, how those two sound together when we get into that break. And you can hear it's just drums and bass at one point with the little chant underneath it. And that is where I think that really shines. But it's running throughout the whole song, that combo of the Ormsby bass and the Cutie. So now, I did the trick again of using some delay on the, what do we call that? On the second verse. It pumps it. I went nuts on that. And again, I could do that with both of them because the delays are the same on this and on the Minilog XD. There you go. So I'm feeling really, really good. I do that. I go into the verse keys. For the verse keys, I use the Minilog XD, and I use a sound on it called dense lead, and I put an ARP on it. And when I put that arpeggio on it, the arpeggiator, I suddenly realized it sounded like people playing violins and mandolins. It really makes instant creepy synth goth country, I don't know if there's a word for it, blackgrass instead of bluegrass, blackgrass. Okay, that's what we're going to call this from now on. We have a musical genre now called blackgrass, or maybe Norgrass or something like that. But yeah, it's or blue weeds. We'll work on it. We'll figure it out. But it will. If you have a suggestion for our new musical genre, please put that in the comment section. But I was really happy with that. It sounded completely insane, and there's not any reverb really put onto that, and you'll notice that there isn't any reverb. Normally I put the bass and the drums in post basement, or I'll put some reverb on my vocals. Everything is pretty much dry, and that's because I noticed that when I was doing that, it was pulling the energy out of the song, and this song needed to have a lot of crazy energy, and crazy energy it has galore. It should switch to decaf. So yeah, that's why you're not hearing a lot of reverb. There is some reverb in there. Like I said, there is the riser in there. Now, for the chorus, I used, again, back to the keys on the chorus and in the intro, that is a thing called a lapis lazuli, a sound from the Minilog. Now, I found out, I had to look it up, and a lapis lazuli is a semi-precious stone valued for its deep blue color, which seems to make sense. I bet Kentucky's full of them. I bet you can't walk 2 feet in Pulaski County without stepping on a lapis lazuli. So, normally I would recommend to people, if you have some sort of, because what I did was I added to that a chorusing effect called a blend. We're going to get into that in a minute. But what I would normally recommend to people, if you have something kind of swirly and thick like that, it's almost like a pad, that you put a high-pass filter on it to keep it from bleeding into other parts of the mix. I didn't do that this time. I forgot. But I really like the way that sounds. Now, blend. Let's talk about blend for a minute. I have blend on the Minilog. I do not have blend on the NST Mark II. And that is because it was supposed to go on here. And there's a company called Sign Vibes, and they've been great for me. They've been fantastic. But I downloaded the patch, or not patch, the effect, and I was able, of course, to put it on the Minilog, but for some reason it would not work with this. I just had the one for the old, the one that doesn't work anymore. I threw it on there anyway, but I have the NTS Mark I. But yeah, so maybe somebody, I tried to get in touch with them, and that was a nightmare. But at least I know I can make it work. I can move some sounds. I moved what's called a barber pole sound onto there. again, not on this track, but maybe someday in the future we'll discuss the barber pole sound. All right, the verses. If you want to know what those consist of chord-wise, the verses are just a D minor, another D minor, an F, and a D minor. That's it, and that repeats. Try to keep the verses simple. Again, the same thing. The intro is basically just like a G minor, and just playing around with that. And then for the choruses get a little more complex. The choruses go C minor, C, D minor, B flat, F. C, D minor, G suspended fourth. That's right, I use the suspended fourth. In fact, I liked it so much I use it again. So it's G suspended fourth, G suspended fourth, and then we go back to the rest of the choruses, C, D minor, B flat, F, repeat that again, and then we end on a C, D minor, G suspended fourth, F. So that's the everything you really need to know about the song if you want to make it at home. Don't even buy the same stuff I have, take the equipment you have and just try to recreate this song at home. Might be fun for you. Won't be fun for your neighbors or your family. I know everybody moved out of this neighborhood. Every house is for sale now. I opened up the windows and blasted this song. These people are going to love it. And they were like, we like the arpeggio under the verses, but that sounds kind of countryish. But everything else frightens us. All right, folks, we are now going to move on to tutorials. So hopefully I can help you people or make your situation worse. Spoiler alert, I'm probably going to make your situation worse. All right, so we're going to talk now about transitions. Not like the movie I Saw the TV's Glow, the transitioning in that. Great movie, and if you are transitioning, I've got your back. If your family doesn't have your back, screw them. I'm your real family. No, I don't have kids. If my kids were transitioning, I'd be like, I might be losing a son, but I'm gaining a daughter, or vice versa. If you have a problem with this is probably not the video for you. Okay, so I'm talking about transitioning where you're going from one part of a song to another. Someone asked me in the comments section for the last video, because I asked if anybody wanted some advice, and somebody pointed out that they had a weird transition in a song. And I'm thinking, are there really any weird transitions? Because sometimes a jarring transition is a beautiful thing in itself. Now, back in the day, I want to talk for a minute about how things used to work back in the day when you would try to match some things up that didn't quite match up. And I hate to talk about the Beatles. I don't like the Beatles. I really, really, really don't like the Beatles. I think, when they all died in that yellow submarine that imploded when they went to look at the Titanic or whatever, I don't know much about that type of music. I wasn't that broken up. But there's a song by the Beatles called Strawberry Fields. And apparently Strawberry Fields was in 2 different keys at 2 different tempos. And John Lennon told George Martin, he's like, well, you just fix it. Just I like this. And George Martin and the engineer are like, well, yeah, but they're different keys and different tempos. Like, oh, you'll figure it out. And he did figure it out. One part of it was in B flat major, and the other part was in C major. And what he did was he just took and he slowed I think the C major part down. Yeah, that would make sense. Down 11.5%, and then the tempo and the key would then match. So that's what you had to do back in the day. Nowadays, if you had that problem, we just slap it on the computer and we just up the tempo and we can fix the key. Okay, it's going to be in this key now, and everything is good. I don't know how people made albums in the past. I remember making albums in the past, like going into old-timey studios with tape and everything, but I think I've wiped a lot of stuff from my memory. I'm happier to be living now. So what I suggest, there's a couple ways. If you've got one part here that just doesn't seem to match the other part, there's a couple ways to get around that. One is a pre-break or something like a pre-chorus. You can do that. And a little bridge before a bridge. And sometimes people will do those in 2/4 time. So, it's 2 beats for, each one being a whole note. So it's like boom, 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 boom. Pink Floyd. I hate to mention Beatles and Pink Floyd in the same video because I'm not an oldies video, but Pink Floyd would do that a lot. They would use that weird little 2/4 transition. Really disturbing if you think about it. And that would kind of work as a way. The other thing that you can do is a little percussion trick. If the drum part is varied, you kind of make a half drum part. So if you've got like a snare on the one part that's hitting on the 1 and the 4, and the snare on the other part is hitting on the on the 2 and the 4, and the second part is the 2 and the 4, then you can make a little transition maybe in there where it's like hitting on the 2 and the 4, but then the bass drum copies the bass drum from the first one if it's different in the second one. You can play around enough with, and you see I did it in Clouds House, Kentucky, where everything kind of drops out and we begin to have the drums in there, and that's how we connect up everything. So I use my own tricks, people. The quick and dirty way, it's the way I love, is to use a rise or a drop. It's easy to do these, particularly if you're making house music or any sort of electronic music. They're super easy to do within a DAW, digital audio workstation. We can, or if you're using live musicians, slide down your guitar neck or your bass or whatever to the note that you're going to. And you can exaggerate that slide. So if it's, you make it last for 8 beats, and then go in. There's a lot of options here. Again, I do not mind a jarring transition. I do not mind when things suddenly go nuts. It's the song Some Velvet Morning has really weird transitions in that. There's a good example of an odd song with odd transitions. So I don't mind an odd transition. Maybe sometimes you need to embrace the oddness, but if you can't, again, try that pre-break, pre-chorus, maybe do that in like 2/4 time, or any odd sort of time signature to make it even weirder, and then when they come out of that, it feels more normal. Or, like I say, I'm percussion tricks are always good. So, hey, let's just drop out everything maybe and just use boom, boom, boom. Here's a bass drum with something over it before it goes into that odd transitional zone. And then the last thing I recommend, and it should have been the first thing I recommend because I'm a big fan of them, drops and rises. Okay, everybody, that is all we have for this time. I'm going to go figure out how to promote an album in 2024. Should be exciting. You'll see me again hopefully in a couple of weeks when I explain to you where I am with the album, and I might have some more tips to you. But again, thank you all so much, because without your input and without your encouraging me, I would not have my first and only EP ever.